The LA Rams made it to the Super Bowl last year. What are they going to do this year? We talked earlier about what the expectations for this team should be. It's kind of vague right now. I don't expect another Super Bowl appearance. Not many teams that lose the Super Bowl get back. The Patriots, the first team to lose and get back and win it since the Dolphins in the early 70s. And there were real questions about the Rams. Not the same level of star power infusion that we saw a year ago, but still, Clay Matthews, who knows how much he has left. Eric Weddle, all due respect, who knows how much he has left either. Those are the biggest names that they've added via free agency, guys who weren't with the teams. And then there's Blake Bortles. And what Grandma always say, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. So let's just move on.
Yeah.
They're without some guys they had last year, and Ndamukong Suh, I think, will be signing with someone not the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Seattle. That'd be a great way for the Seahawks to stick it to the Rams a little bit. But I just, look, I don't know what to feel about these Rams. I don't know how to feel about Jared Goff. I don't know how to feel about Todd Gurley and that arthritic knee that only got worse as the year unfolded, Chris.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions there, certainly. I mean, and you talked about, the last few years we've seen talent infusion every year with the Rams, whether it was Sammy Watkins, Marcus Peters and Ndamukong Suh last year, the Brandon Cooks thing, all of that. Hey, I do think Eric Weddle was a nice signing. They needed that position, needed a kind of some veteran stability back there, losing LaMarcus Joyner. But yeah, not that great splash that we've seen. But this team is pretty well set up. Now the big thing is there's not a lot of great depth on the football team. That's the one thing I look at with the Rams. The last 2 years, they've been very fortunate to avoid the injury bug, because I do think them, compared to other teams I evaluate, they would be more susceptible to being in big trouble if they got the injury bug as compared to maybe other teams. The other thing is, and you mentioned, Sean McVay going to have to reinvent himself a little bit this year. 2 years of kind of being the king of offense in the NFL, or certainly one of the kings, and then towards the last year, we saw a few teams kind of crack the code down the stretch to where, yeah, I think he's going to have to find new wrinkles and new schemes and new additions to the offense to give Jared Goff and the offense some advantages that way. But how long is the shelf life of this team, right, Mike? I think that's the big thing. Is this one more year and we turn this over? Is it 2 more years? How does it go? They got some aging guys at a lot of positions as you look across the roster and go, they only got a year or 2 left before they got to start thinking of replacements.
Yeah, Andrew Whitworth almost didn't come back at left tackle, and Jared Goff's got 2 years left on his rookie contract. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he will be with that team over the long haul. I thought it was funny a couple of weeks ago when the Rams picked up his 5th-year option. A lot of Rams fans crowed, well, this means that Goff is the guy. No, it doesn't. It hardly means he's the guy. All it means is they're exercising their option to keep him around for 1 more year, and then they're going to figure out what they're going to do after that. They may not keep him around. Sean McVay may want to pick his own quarterback. And Todd Gurley is the thing that hovers over all of this for me, because they made Todd Gurley, at the time, the highest paid running back in football, with the long-term deal with a ton of injury guarantee, and then the knee started to be a problem. And what can he really do? And they used a high pick on Darrell Henderson, 5'8" running back out of Memphis, a guy with a rocket up his butt, as you would say, a guy who can do a lot of things in that offense. And if Todd Gurley was getting a little salty about C.J. Anderson last year, he's going to get real salty about Darrell Henderson, because I don't think Sean McVay drafts that guy so high if he doesn't plan to use him right away, Chris.
Well, and even to your point, even further, which I agree with you, right? You're right. Henderson's going to be a part of this offense. He's special, too. He can really make some big-time plays, screen game, 3rd down running back. I think that's how he'll be used probably early on. But the other thing that just shows me they were a little concerned with Todd Gurley, too, is, hey, let's not forget, the Detroit Lions made an offer to Malcolm Brown, the backup running back for the Rams, to sign him in free agency. And the Rams matched that offer to make sure they got him back and gave him a signing bonus and some money guaranteed that you usually don't see a part of backup running back type deals. So that to me is a little bit of a clue, at least, that, hey, they wanted to have somebody there that knew the offense, is a veteran and been around the league and knows what it's like to be a Los Angeles Ram, because they're a little scared of Todd Gurley. But I'm with you, Mike. This is a big question altogether. Hey, the offensive line was not great the last 7, 8 weeks of the year, other than the Dallas Cowboy game where they cracked the code of what Dallas was doing on defense, their offensive line did not dominate people. And then added the fact that Todd Gurley was not 100%, that does scare me because, we forget the Rams are kind of a run-first football team. They were towards the top of the league in all rushing statistics, and a lot of their play-action passes and things and their passing offense come off of their ability to run the ball, and that's something I certainly will evaluate as we get into the season.
They do get Cooper Kupp back from a torn ACL.
Yep.
Assuming he's healthy, that will help the offense because Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks can only do so much themselves. Kupp had become a very potent addition, and without him, the offense was different. So, look, injuries are going to be a factor for all teams, and you're going to have to respond and adjust and adapt. But that really did seem to affect that offense. They seem to be much more effective earlier in the year. At the end of the year, it just kind of felt like they were hanging on. And to their credit, they got to the Super Bowl. But I think it was a surprise. By middle of October, we'd have said this team is destined for the Super Bowl. By late December and into early January, there were real question marks about the Rams, and I'm still stunned they came back and won the game in New Orleans and disrupted a Saints-Patriots Super Bowl. And I'm more than stunned that they only scored 3 points. I just wonder how much that scars their psyche going into 2019.
Right.
The fact that they put in all that work, all that effort, they get to the Super Bowl, they only score 3 points. Will they have enough faith in themselves this year to, that they're going to be around at the end of the season in a viable position, can climb the mountain, and have a better showing than what they had a year ago?
Yeah, well, it's hard to replicate that type of intensity, to have the ball bounce your way a few times, whatever it may be. It is. I mean, it's just the NFL season's long and grueling, and to be able to do it 2 years in a row is, we've seen only the special teams can do that, really. But listen, I think the big thing that you talk about that I certainly question and want to see more of this year is the Sean McVay factor. I do feel like teams caught on to the Sean McVay offense the second half of the year. You talked about how awesome they looked at the start of the year and all of that. I just think, again, when you're Boy Genius and you're one of the best offensive brains in the game, people are going to evaluate a little bit in the offseason, especially the teams in your division. Now they've had 2 full seasons to play against you and really get your tendencies. We've seen a few other teams really give them issues, like the Chicago Bears, where now teams are going to steal what they did. Some of the coverages the Patriots ran in the Super Bowl were from that Bears game plan. So I think that is the thing I am most excited to see is Sean McVay reinventing himself and bringing more to the table on the offensive side of the ball because as awesome as he is, I did think the offense lacked a little creativity and some newness and new plays altogether as we got later into the season.
He said it himself at the scouting combine with a laugh. He's now Boy Blunder, no longer Kid Genius, but this is just part of the growing pains. If you're going to have a long career in the NFL, you are going to have these moments where you are tested to try to refine your approach, improve it, stay one step ahead of everybody else. That's what so much of what the game is about. As they catch up to what you're doing, you have to figure out how to stay ahead of it. It gets back to the story you told last hour. When they figure out your audibles, you got to figure out a way to use that against them. When they figure out how to stop your defense, you got to figure out how to take advantage of the opportunity that creates. At the end of the day, there's still only 11 guys on the field. So if they are aligning and moving those guys and using them in a way to take away the things that you want to do, there's an opening somewhere else. You just have to learn how to exploit it, and I think that's the big challenge for the Rams. And I mean, right out of the gate, so I mean, you go to Carolina week 1 on the road, 10 a.m. local time game for the Rams. That's not going to be easy. And they have the Saints come to town the next week. They are going to be ready for. Even though all the Rams did was show up and do their job, they're trying to get to the next game, but the Saints are going to have a lot of pent-up frustration going into that game. It's not going to be an easy start to the season, and if you don't set the tone right for the Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, one of those teams may be running away with the division by the time the Rams figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the first 2 games, and let's not forget game number 3 is going to be Monday night in Cleveland, right? So that's going to be scary.
Sunday night on NBC.
Sorry, I messed that up. Sorry, NBC. But yeah, I mean, you're right. They could get off to a slow start, and you start off 1-2. That's not easy to climb out and get back on the positive, schedule or record type of thing. thing. But either way, the Rams are extremely talented. It's going to be about how they bounce back from the adversity of losing the Super Bowl. Can they all be focused for another year around? Are they focused right now? It was a short off season for them. It's their first short off season, so they're not used to that. Can you refocus and replicate that intensity and emotion and attention to detail for a second year in a row? That is really the thing that, in my experience, being around one Super Bowl team my rookie year, that seemed to be the hard thing to replicate for the 2003 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, once you have to go back to 0-0 and you have the weight of expectations, and like you said, you start at 1-2. If that happens, how do you dig out of that? It's not easy to do. When the expectations are low, hey, we're off to a good start. We won out of our first 3. When the expectations are high, it feels like the walls are closing in around.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.